Hi, this is Aaron Dubinsky coming to you today from the Chut Shel Chesed Yeshiva Beit Knesset in the holy city of Yerushalayim in the beautiful state of Israel, under the direction of our spiritual guide and Rabbi Shalom Arush. May Hashem bless him always. Isn't the world a great place to live? Isn't the world a terrible place to live? Most of us have said both of those at some time or other in our life. And you know what? At the time we said it, we were right. It's a beautiful place to live, depending on how you look at it. It's a horrible place to live, depending on how you look at it. It's all in how we see it. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories today. It's story time with Rav Aaron today. And I want you to think about these stories because they give you an insight into what the world is like. You know, we talked about this before, that Hashem could have created a perfect world. A world where I love you, you love me, we all love each other. Nobody hurts anybody, nobody steals from anybody, nobody condescends to anybody, nobody makes people feel bad. They just live a life knowing that we're all part of Hashem, that we're that little spark in us we call soul. It comes from the divine. It comes from Hashem himself. So we're all connected. None of us is better than the other. Well, that's the difference between egotism and self-esteem. People tell me they're the same thing, and they are absolutely positively not the same thing. Self-esteem says, I'm part of the divine spark. That makes me something special. By the way, so are you. And that makes you something special. Now, on the other side, you have egotism. And egotism says, I'm special, which makes me better than you. Forget about it. You're not better than anybody. None of us is better than anybody. We're all good in our way. Hashem put us here to do what we need to do. Rabbi Nachman says that the day that you were born was the day that Hashem decided the world could not survive without you. That's why you were born. And if you are still here, whatever it is you were born to do, whatever corrections you are put here to take care of, whatever other tasks that you have to take care of, they haven't been fulfilled yet. That's why you're still here. That's why you're still walking around. That's your purpose. Your purpose in life is to complete what you were sent here for. You were sent. You have work to do. If you haven't done it, you are still here. Okay? So, by the way, that doesn't give you an excuse for not getting the work that you need to get done. I'll tell you a story today. The interesting thing about the way life works is the fact that we get surprises all the time. Some not so great, some terrific. And we're never quite prepared for them sometimes. I remember a story that was told to me by a Rav whose name, if I mentioned it, you would certainly recognize. And he was telling me a story about a woman who used to pay, when her husband was alive and she had money, she would pay to have people do Kaddish for people who had passed on and had nobody to say Kaddish for them. This was her path in life, for lack of a better word. And she did it, and she did it lovingly, and she did it to cover these people who had no one to say Kaddish for them. Well, as time passed on, her husband passed away, and she was left alone. 10 years later, she'd gone through everything that had been left to her because of what she was doing, of the tzedakah she was doing. What a great thing to do when you think about it, to give somebody to say Kaddish for them. So she was without money. Her daughter was getting ready to get married, and she was beside herself. What was she going to do? So she sits on a bench in the park, and she's crying and crying and crying. And a man comes over to her and says to her, is there something wrong? She says, yes, but nothing you could help with. He says, try me. Maybe there's something I could do. And she tells him the story. This is what she's done. This is why she's poor. Then she has this responsibility, and she doesn't know how she's going to take care of it. And the man said, yes, you definitely are talking to the right person. He takes out a checkbook, and he gets ready to write her a check. He said, before I write this check, we need 2 kosher witnesses, because when you go to present the check, you're going to have to take them with you to a certain bank that he named to her. So he writes her a check. And as it happens, two Bachorim were walking by, and they asked them to be witnesses, and they both agreed. So she took this, and before she could say thank you to him, he was gone. So anyway, she took the check, and she went to the bank that he told her to go to, and she brought the Bachorim with her. And She went to present the check to be cashed, and the teller said, "Wait here just one moment, please," and left. Comes back with a man, and the man says, "What is it you're trying to do here?" She says, "Well, really nothing. I'm just trying to cash a check that was given to me." He says, "Who gave you this check?" And she tries to describe the man in various ways, and this other man is not quite getting what she's trying to describe. He says, "Come into my office. Let's take just a minute." So he goes into the office. She comes in behind him, and the two Bechorim come with her. And he says, "Okay, let's try this again. Can you give me a little bit more of a better description of this man who gave you this check?" And the woman looks up at a portrait behind this young man and says, "That's him right there." He says, "Now I know we have a problem, because you see, that man right there is my father, and he's been dead for several years, so he couldn't have given you a check." He said, he looked at the Bechorim, and he says, "Is that the guy?" And they both go, "Mm-hmm, that's him." Well, the man passes out. He can't take this very stressful situation. And when he wakes up, he said, "Are you okay?" He says, "I'm okay, except this man that you're telling me gave you this check is my father, and he's been dead for several years." He says, "And I feel so bad to even tell you this, because when he passed away, I was not very religious, and I didn't do the things I should have done. I didn't even say Kaddish for him." Are you getting the connection, folks? And it turns out that this woman paid somebody to say Kaddish for this man's father, the man who gave her the check. Now, it's a pretty tall tale when you think about it. And I myself would have said, "Yeah, I don't know." But I'm going to tell you the reason I tell you this story, and I know it's true. Because the person who told me this is a Rav, again, whose name you would recognize if I told it to you. And he told me this story because he was one of the Bechorim. That's how he knows it happened. These kind of things happen all the time in life. Myself, when I was in Miami before I came and made Aliyah, I sat with Rob Brody for 15 minutes, and he told me one thing after another about my life that he couldn't possibly have known. Yet he did. He also told me I would have to come to Israel, and I said to him, "Rob, I'd love to come to Israel to visit you." And he said, "Oh, no, not to visit, to live." And I said, "Rob, not for nothing, but I live in Miami Beach. Why in the world would I want to go to Israel?" And he said, "Listen to me very carefully. You need to come. You need to come soon, and do yourself a huge favor. Come before it gets too painful." And I'm thinking, okay, he's okay, but I don't know about this. Well, I listened to what he said. I liked him. I kept it in the back of my mind. And over the next 2 years, my life fell apart. My business fell apart. I lost my home. I lost my car. I lost everything. I lost everything. And one day I'm doing a boat. One night I'm doing a boat at 2 o'clock in the morning on a golf club in Aventura, Florida. And I'm talking to Hashem. And I said, "I don't know what you want from me. I've tried everything. It's so very, very painful. If there's something you want me to do, I'll do it. Something you want me to stop, I'll stop it. But just give me a hint as to what it is. Make this pain go away." And I knew at the moment I said that, the pain that he was talking about was the same pain that Rob Brody was talking about. This happens to us all the time. One more story, and I will go on. This is a story last week. I talked to somebody in America. They had become a new member with Breast of Israel, and I was talking to them. I said, "So how did you hear about us? Not everybody hears about us. We're not that huge." And they said to me, "Actually, oddly, you should mention it, but we had all these CDs from the Rav and books from the Rav that were left behind by a friend of ours 10 years ago when he made Aliyah." And we talked a little bit more. I said, "I got to ask, because I need to know. Could you give me the name of the friend? Would you mind telling me what his name was?" And she tells me his name. Well, and I said, "What a coincidence." I said, "You're not going to believe this, but he's on my list to call today. I need to talk to him about something. Do you mind if I mention that we talked?" She said, "No, I don't mind if you mention it. It'd be great, because my husband and he haven't spoken in years, and they were the best of friends." So I called this gentleman here in Israel, and we talked for a few minutes, and I said, does the name such and such mean anything to you? And he said, are you kidding? He was a Macharuta in America. We're great friends. We lost touch a few years ago. I said, isn't it a coincidence that I talked to her yesterday and today, and I'm talking to you today? You have the chance to renew this bond. He says, yeah, I've had that coincidence also this week. It was somebody else that I had lost touch with for several years. Passed away last week. I said, do you think these are coincidences? Or do you think they're connected? He says, what do you mean? I said, you should call this man who's alive, call him and renew this bond. Hashem had just sent you a message. Take the message. Everybody says Hashem doesn't talk to us. He talked to David and Melech. He talked to Moshe Rabbeinu, but he doesn't talk to us. He talks to us all the time. These are some of the ways he talks to us to let us know he's there, he's watching us, and he appreciates what we're doing to help correct the world we were put into. The world needs a lot of correction these days. You don't have to read a newspaper even to know about that, because everybody's talking about it. This is part of what we need to be working on ourselves. Our corrections, and corrections of the world in itself. It cannot survive on the moral course that it has dug for itself. It needs people who understand things, who have a moral compass, who can lead the world where it's supposed to go. That's us. This is our job. This is our task. This is why we are here. This is our raison d'etre. This is our reason to be. This is what we need to do. We need to help correct the world. So when we say the world's a terrible place, or we say the world is a great place, let's take the terrible out. We don't need that. We can make the world a great place. We can make the world the kind of place we want to live in, that we want our children, our grandchildren, and their grandchildren to live in. We can make the world the way it's supposed to be and help with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu and the building of the third Beit HaMikdash, B'mheira b'yameinu. You guys make this a great week ahead, because you know what? The world is a great place, and we can make it better. Day by day by day. Just remember why we're here, to make it a better place. Be well, my friends. God bless.